Hi, Asian Mahara here. Are people with BPD, I guess women in particular, with untreated BPD, enjoying hypersexuality, enjoying the physicality, enjoying the sex? You know, I've seen comments on the channel and people think absolutely, because I think they said it's like it's a bodily function and need, just like the need for food. But and I have the flare-up of the medical condition here. It's not an overeating issue. But when people are compulsively overeating, that doesn't mean that they're enjoying that either. So often many people with BPD, many women with BPD, in their hypersexuality, it's not really about enjoying the sex at all. Because it might be on that physical level, but then often the more a woman with untreated borderline personality is hypersexual, usually highly correlated to having been sexually abused in childhood, it performs, it's the wrong word to use, but this hypersexuality for women with BPD meets needs of theirs, let's say, that have nothing to do with, really, the physical reality of sex or the loving you in these intimate times. Because, people with BPD untreated don't know how to soothe themselves. That's one thing for sure, lack of self. And so the more that they have intimate physical relations with someone, or many people, as is the case for some women BPD, certainly not all, then the more they're getting soothed. It can also be, for some women with BPD, it's trauma reenactment. And I've had many clients who've told me, as I think some people have said in live streams and on the channel here, that in the middle of physical intimacy, and it is more about sex than it is about love for the untreated borderline, more about what they need, and again goes to soothing and goes to other issues, and can be a re-experiencing of trauma. Sometimes, because I'm a sexual abuse survivor, and I healed and recovered from that. Also went to therapy for that same time as I was in recovery for BPD, which I healed and recovered from too. But the bottom line is, often when someone is sexually abusing you, as I know first person, they will try to tell you that you're special. And then otherwise they will be very abusive, often, very abusive to you and very neglectful and not seeing or hearing you, etc., as a child. And so a lot of women in the hypersexuality of intimate physical relations are feeling special. Feeling, for lack of a better way to put it, quote, more connected, unquote, but not really, not emotionally. It helps them to soothe. It helps them to regulate other kinds of stressors. It doesn't mean that they're not going to have the pleasure of the physical intimacy, but it means they rarely, if ever, come to the bedroom, so to speak, with it going to be more than sex. In other words, emotional intimacy with the physical intimacy, or that they're going to be fully present to that. More often than not, for many untreated women with BPD who have hypersexuality, they're not fully there. And they can age regress in the middle of physical intimate relations. I've had many clients mention that. They can start to talk like a child, which is age regression, or they can just get triggered. And whether they continue on, until completion of what's happening or not, they have stress and triggered reality building up inside of them. So they're not really enjoying it. Their body might enjoy it, but wherever they might be in their mind and their emotions, could be like, it just, the furthest thing from what you would want to be sharing, along with the physical intimacy with someone. So not all people with BPD, women especially with the hypersexuality, are really able to enjoy that. And usually like so many things in the beginning of these relationships, the idealization, the mirroring, the people pleasing on the part of the untreated borderline, to a person who has codependency, you may or may not know that or what that means, then you think, they treat you like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then there's all this sex available often for many men who are with a hypersexual borderline woman and don't know that from the beginning. And then it often trails off to dries up totally in various different periods of time with different women with BPD untreated who have this hypersexuality. Again, that's highly correlated with sexual abuse and often is meeting a lot of other needs for the person with BPD, unbeknownst to them, not saying they won't maybe have the bodily pleasure of what's happening there, but they're likely not extremely. They're not all present often in intimate physical relations. So that's something for people to think about too, because I've had many clients, mainly men, who've been with a BPD woman with hypersexuality, who have said, they don't feel like they're there. You don't feel connected intimately and emotionally. You might physically, yes, but then you don't feel like they're really all there, even in that sense, right? And then there's times when they might feel triggered, which has nothing to do with you. And in while having sex, they feel triggered and or can age regress and or can just seem like they're really kind of vacant and not really there in any emotional way. Because that's the case for many more untreated women with BPD with hypersexuality than not. It's also correlated highly with monkey branching, prostitution, other types of services and or employment, shall I say, in different industries having to do with requiring them to have a lot of sex. And I just know how to put that. And also there's, well, I shouldn't say the website here, but there's a website, right? And it's kind of something to do with daddy and a little bit of sugar. A lot of hypersexual women with BPD are involved with that website and with men for that reason. And, sometimes men are okay with that arrangement because that's just another offshoot of this. Certainly not all men that are with a hypersexual borderline woman. They were hoping like this was the woman that you fell in love with, right? But so there's a lot more to this. And again, it's not the same for all women with untreated BPD with the hypersexuality that's highly correlated with sexual abuse in childhood. And I had a question on the channel the other day where somebody asked if a woman is hypersexual with BPD, does that necessarily mean that they were sexually abused? And again, and I answered that question. I wish I could remember what video it was on, but if I find it, I'll put it in the comment underneath this video. But I think my answer was there's no way to know 100% for sure. But the high correlative factor of sexual abuse to hypersexuality in untreated borderline women, specifically, I'm not going to deal with men with BPD right now. It's pretty much is correlated highly with sexual abuse in childhood. And like I said, there's so much that can be going on within the emotions and even trauma re-experiencing. Don't hear that the wrong way. That's going on inside the person with BPD in their unconscious, and they're not aware of it, and you have nothing to do with it. But so there's a lot that goes on with the hypersexual borderline woman, more of them than not, that is, it's not about love. So most people, unless you're hooking up with somebody, most people want and do love who they're with on a, more than just once or twice or a one-night stand basis, right? So, or some other kind of arrangement. So people really, men need to really think about if you spotted anything like them being triggered, getting anxious, being very moody after or before And that might come after devaluation starts. But also they get increasingly more stressed out by trying to be physically intimate, as much as they want that, in the hypersexual nature of that, with the same person, or in a way in which you're there emotionally, and you want to attach, and you want to do more than have sex, you want to make love. And not all sex is making love, because often the hypersexual borderline woman, the people with untreated BPD are not capable of love. So how does that translate into the bedroom, so to speak? So that's something that people have to take into account, mostly men also. And then I've had a lot of clients over the years, and, I'm always working with people with, different things going on now, but I want to be more vague about current clients. But I've had a lot of male clients over the years with, and maybe they're younger, that, the pregnancy scares, the pregnancy lies, the manipulation around that, because, a lot of, the hypersexuality of the untreated borderline woman, and most of them, not all, I guess, maybe, I don't know, they're all different. They have different things going on even there. But it's not about love, and it's not about connection. Obviously, there's a physical connection, but often these women are willing to give that to anyone. And I say that with great compassion, because that can be really hard for men to hear. So if you've been wondering more about this, or thinking, like somebody just commented that of course they enjoy it because of the body, function or feeling, as if somebody eating is enjoyable, but people with compulsive overeating don't necessarily enjoy that anymore either, because in the way that compulsive overeating, or which again is not my problem right now, it's a medical flare-up, weight condition. I mean, a medical condition that causes weight flare-up. But so when people are compulsively overeating, they're not doing it because they're enjoying the food. They're not enjoying that either. And they might be in a love-hate relationship with the food to have BPD. But this would be the same thing with the hypersexuality, that it would be a love-hate relationship with that. That sometimes they would really want that, and all of the other things that it can help them with, like soothing, etc., and be there for all the wrong reasons, and need it for all the wrong reasons, and the trauma reenactments of it that they may or may not experience, but that has nothing to do with you as being with them. It's inside of them. It's their issue. So they can often want lots of sex, and they're not really enjoying it, or it's fulfilling some other need. But often, I've been told many things often by clients over the years, but among other things, they will get very distant afterwards, and or oftentimes, discards and ghosting happens after what you think has been one of the best times ever, physically intimately, or, having, maybe you feel like you're making love to your girlfriend or your wife, but having sex, whatever the case might be, but that might be what trips the hypersexual borderline woman sooner or later into a massive devaluation split, because they're not able to handle what's actually going on emotionally for them, which you may or may not see signs of. So hypersexuality and borderline women, it's often not as much about the sex as you think it is. Now, the sex becomes for them a vehicle of trying to meet many other needs, often unbeknownst to them consciously. So I hope that was a bit helpful if anybody wants to or needs to know more about that.